All right, welcome back to TML Weekly, episode 8, presented as always by Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Bar and Grill. First things first, see how the guys are doing. Johnny Mac, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. Just Jack had a game tonight, so we were at that, and they suffered their first loss in the regular season. So, we should have came out a little stronger. Hey, Nolan, it's like the 28th of November, and I just noticed your mo.
Yeah.
You've been doing that all month.
It's been trying.
Not a boy.
Yeah, I know. Got mixed opinions on whether to keep it or get rid of it soon.
Hey, works for us than Matthews, brother.
Starting to look like Austin.
Yeah, barely tell the difference, eh?
Domi's gonna fight Kachuk this game.
John, how's it going?
It's going good. I wish we were. I wish I could say I was in a great mood, and I love watching the Leafs right now because they're a fantastic team and warming my heart on a daily basis. But this is as close to. I don't want to call it a disaster yet, but it's not a good story to tell. Now, that being said, we're not the Chicago Blackhawks. That is that's a story for another day. Young kid Bedard. Johnny, why don't you jump in here? Why don't you jump in? I know you've got some feelings on this about the Bedard boy and Corey Perry and. I'm
not even going to distinguish these disgusting rumors by mentioning them. But anybody out there that's listening. There's nothing further from the truth. Obviously, Corey Perry has done something that crossed the line. In terminology of conduct, team or league code of conduct. Obviously, we can't dispute that. Having said that, the stuff that's being written in the media makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me not want to ever read social media. Because you've got a young man that's just starting his career. You got Corey Perry that we're not talking about anything criminal, or we'd know that. Okay, it could be. There's if you look at the history, unfortunately in Chicago with the Kyle Beach situation, and then there's an unknown name player now that has some allegations of misconduct and hidden misconduct. That market is very sensitive. I think I don't know if we'll ever find out what happened, but you're crucifying a kid, his family. You're also, Corey Perry, in my opinion, is a Hall of Famer, and I don't know. It made my blood boil with the so-called how would you put it, backdoor media or whatever you want to call it. These people that just clickbait posts and this and that and making memes and stuff. You're affecting people's lives, right? And these guys that play hockey for a living or act for a living or play another sport, they're human beings like we are, and their families read these things, and it makes me sick to my stomach that this is out there, and I feel bad for everybody involved. The Chicago Blackhawks and the NHL, but just, skip by that stuff when you see it, or block I blocked about 4 different sites that I follow on social media over the last 48 hours based on some of this stuff. It's not okay. You're messing with people's lives. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. It makes me sick.
The one thing that I will say is I don't have any sympathy at all for the Chicago Blackhawks as an organization. I have none.
Well, I do, because it's a new regime. Okay.
I understand. I'm still after the way that ownership group and everything was handled with those young kids from before. This is another black mark on that Wirtz family, and I'll just leave that there. That's my opinion on that with the Blackhawks. I have no sympathy for the Blackhawks at all.
Right. You know what? You got Luke Richardson, who's there that, I played junior against the guy, 40 years ago or whatever it was, close. And he's been a stand-up gentleman. He's dealt with a lot of adversity with the passing of his daughter several years ago. But he, in my opinion, he's you can't paint him with the same brush as you do.
No. And be clear. I'm not painting Richardson. I'm talking about ownership. I'm talking about that.
Rocky just died. The guy that was in charge. Just
senior group.
He just died though. Everybody else is gone. Rocky just died, and everybody else is gone. That was part of that. Every single one of them. Al McIsaac, who's an East Coast guy. He's gone. He was a victim of all that. Obviously, Quenneville hasn't coached since it came out. Stan Bowman won three cups in Chicago and hasn't had a sniff of a job since. So the guys that were involved with that organization at the time have paid for it.
Good. I'm good with all of that.
Yeah, I just feel, I don't think that anybody involved here in this latest situation needs to be dealing with some of the stuff that they're dealing with. That's all.
All right.
And I guess as a guy that kind of played the game at a half decent level, I sympathize with the guys that are there. And it's, everybody, oh, well, they make a ton of, but,
it's like families and kids and all that. I get it.
I said a couple weeks ago on the podcast, if somebody was ever drafted by Toronto Maple Leafs or traded to Toronto Maple Leafs, my first advice would be to them, get rid of your social media, tell your family all to get rid of their social media, and you'll love playing, especially if things are going well.
All right. So speaking of things going well, why don't we, before we get into what's going on right now, why don't we chat about the Friday game in Chicago and the invigorating performance we saw in Pittsburgh? Nolan, talk to me, buddy. How do you feel? How do you feel coming out of those two games?
Yeah, so obviously picked up one of the 4 points. None of us called that out, don't think. I think I said 3. Not sure what you guys said, but tough way to lose. The weird overtime, tough way to lose Willie's point streak.
That one in. That one over the line. Yeah. Listen for the horn.
Sorry, for anybody that's tuning in, well, we got the Leaf game on right now, and it looks as though I'm a little bit behind you guys. I think.
No, I think
I got 13:55 on the clock, and I think the puck went over the line.
No, they showed a replay.
Watch.
No, it's not in.
Oh,
no, it's not in. It's close. Yeah. So, listen, this has been bugging me all week. I got to get it off my chest. It is yet another reason that I moved that Sheldon Keefe can no longer coach this team. Friday afternoon, there's 80 seconds to go in overtime. We've got a face-off in the offensive zone. For some reason, we got $40 million sitting on the bench and Max Domi with no goals and Nick Robertson, who lost his spot on the team to a 18-year-old kid in junior, are on the ice in overtime. We got an offensive zone face-off. Does the coach call a timeout? No, couldn't be bothered. He's got other things going on. He's standing behind the bench. He's got his arms crossed. He's chewing gum. He's looking at the lady in the third row. I don't know. Unacceptable. The absolute worst thing that could have happened, the worst thing, absolutely the worst thing would be you bring the boys to the bench, you get a breath. You say to them, okay, guys, we lose the face-off. What do we do? We turn the puck over. What do we do? What are your defensive assignments coming back? Who are the next two guys jumping on the ice? Because remember, we're still learning how to, not have too many men on the ice at one point or another. So I looked at that game, and what happened? We turned the puck over quickly. They came down the ice. We were out of position. A couple of whacks at the side of the net. The puck's in the net. The game's over. I'm sorry. I know everybody says that all I do is hate on this coach, but for the love of Jesus, that is as elementary a coaching call as there is in the game. And yet again, It's a small thing, and I get it. It's a small thing. But when you have one small thing that goes into another small thing, all of these small things end up to we don't play well in the playoffs, and we wonder why. We can't make changes. We wonder why. We're undisciplined. We're out of position. We're not well structured. They're all little things, but a bunch of little things end up being big things. And that is why we have problems. And that is why this coach has got to go. And I'm done.
What? Who was the other line that was on? I didn't see it.
Who was the other? I don't know who was playing for Chicago.
Okay.
Really, but let's be honest. Who does Chicago have?
Before you crucify Keefe,
yeah,
okay, there could have been an absolute reason. He's got coaches in the stands. He's got coaches that are up in the press box. He's got his guys on the bench. There's matchups. It could have been a matchup that he wanted without a timeout. Let's put it that way. Okay, and there's reason. They have a book on all that situation. If it was time to call a timeout, it's not even Sheldon Keefe saying it. It's somebody in his ear. Yeah, you know what? We got to get this. Boom, boom, boom. That's how it is now. It's not a head coach going, oh, you know what? I think I'll call a time. It's a system.
They've got the Blue Jays.
So they saw something. So what you got to look deep into if you have a tape of the game is you go back and you look at the matchup and that's probably and sometimes you're wrong, right? You know, that's the unfortunate part of it. But the data that they use now would have told them not to take a timeout at that point. That wasn't Sheldon Keefe's call. I mean, obviously it's his call, but the data would have said, we like this. We don't need that 30 seconds because we don't want them to have that 30 seconds to regroup. Let's do this. That it's an analytics call at this point on every team in the National Hockey League. So listen, the American League. I listen. As somebody who watched the Blue Jays implode with analytics, analytics are a tool. They are a tool. They are something to help advise you on what to do. Analytics do not make decisions for you and become that is what you do. Otherwise, you just have an algorithm, you run it, you let Elon Musk tell you what to do, and you don't have anybody behind the bench. That's the reality, right? Yeah. At a certain point, you have to manage the game, and you have to read your players. You have to know your team. I don't give a Nikes what analytics tells you. Analytics tells you that in overtime, in 3-on-3, when there's maximum space on the ice, you want to have your high-end elite players on the ice as much as possible. Max Domi with no goals, none, Zippo all year long. I don't care what the reason is, should not be on in overtime. I don't care what the reason is. Max Domi should not be on the ice. Sorry, that's my take. Now, if you decide that you want to be him and you want to put him on the ice, your job as a coach is to remain responsible. Who in their right mind believes Max Domi is a defensive centerman who is going to be responsible and understand to get back and where to be? Nobody does. Nobody believes that. The knock on Max Domi is he's all offense and no defense. So you're going to tell me analytics is telling you not to call a timeout? I'm not buying that for a second. No. Well, you're wrong on Max Domi. Max Domi is very responsible as a defensive center. Very responsible as a defensive center. I think he's actually done a really good job since he went into that role on that line. You're also playing again in overtime against his old team. I have put fourth liners on the ice in key situations when I'm playing a team that they played for because they have that little bit extra. At the end of the day, I think you may be right about Keefe. I still think he's a fine coach here. I don't put this on him. I think it could be a chemistry issue. I think you need some back end help. I don't think goaltending has been giving you the opportunity to win games, either one of them. This game here looks they're just disengaged. You should be able to beat up on a Florida team that played last night.
Okay, so let's stop though. Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Because when we left off the last podcast that we did, we talked about, you know what? We're going into Chicago. Chicago is a terrible team. They beat us the last time in our barn. We should come out guns a-blazing. 100%.
And they did. They came out hot. 10-1 shots to start the game, I think.
And then what did we do? We
Yeah.
went, let's put the car in cruise.
Was that the coach?
Yes,
Or is it the $100 million for the players?
What did the coach do to change the situation? It's the same. John,
I'm not gonna. You know what? He's probably gonna get fired, but be careful what you wish for.
I'm just telling you. I don't think he will. I'm telling you.
You know what?
I want him gone, but I don't think he will.
They lose tonight and lose to Seattle and Boston on the weekend, which is very possible. Seattle's a better team than they're playing. I mean, he's not going to have the long tether that he had with Keefe or with Dubas who hired him, right? I think if they drop 3 in a row here right now, he's gone. But be careful what you wish for, because guess what? The players, I think, could have a harder time playing for somebody else, and that could be problematic. If you bring in a guy at this point that doesn't mesh with 4 different characters that are, key and instrumental to your success on the front end, not to mention the back end, and I don't know, but I think you're going to get your wish. But
I mean,
Keefe will be working again. Keefe will be working again.
And again, God love him. I could care less what Sheldon Keefe does as long as he's not here. Can
I ask you a question?
Yes.
And I've known you for about a year now. Keefe's been the coach the whole time.
The bane of my existence.
I want to ask you a question about the last 4. Anybody that's listening that knows Johnny, because and not that I don't think you'll tell me the facts. So who are the last 5 coaches? So you got obviously Babs. Did you want Babcock gone?
No.
Ever?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. After the Marner thing, I thought maybe he was a little out of touch. I didn't
the Marner thing. That kid didn't come out until he got fired.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I was okay. I was okay with Babcock behind the bench.
So when they were in a slump for the 3 years or whatever he was here.
No, to be very fair, and everybody will tell you this about me. When we had Sheldon Keefe, when Sheldon Keefe came up, I was very behind Sheldon Keefe, very, very, very much so. I turned, the Columbus one. He got a pass, 100%. You got a pass on Columbus, right? The Montreal series said to me, the way we performed said to me, he's not ready for prime time. He's not ready for prime time.
What did you think of Paul Maurice when he was here?
Paul Maurice?
Yeah.
I actually really like Paul Maurice. I think Paul Maurice is a great coach. I think Paul Maurice didn't have the horses while he was here.
Who else was there? Ron Wilson?
But okay, but so we got to.
I'm going back to where I'm getting at here.
I know, but
I don't think you'll ever be. You watch the games and focus on 1 or 2 little things, and so I think it'll be very tough to please you.
No, because listen to what I'm saying to you. No, because listen to what I'm saying to you. Paul Maurice, Ron Wilson, Randy Carlyle, whoever, go back however long you want to go. Okay, none of those guys had the horses. None of them. We were.
Did.
But
he didn't win with it.
Yeah, but I'm throwing a flag on the play. Mike Babcock had these guys when they were children coming into the league. And what did Babcock try to do? Babcock said in the beginning, these guys are not ready for prime time. They're undisciplined, they're not focused, and they don't try all the time. That's what he said. So here we are 5-7 years later. What's the knock on us? Oh, here we go. We got a tilt going.
Bennett and Domi.
Yeah.
Oh, Domi's getting cleaned. Anyways, that's my point there. Good for Domi for fighting. I like that.
Bennett's tough.
But look at the stash going on Bennett. I kind of like that. Good look on him. But my point there is Babcock did say these guys were not ready. They were not gelling as a team. They were not hustling. They're prima donnas. They don't want to dig in the corners. They don't want to do the dirty work. 5 years later, is Babcock wrong or is Babcock vindicated? I would move that he's probably vindicated. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
No, anyway, if they don't figure it out this week, yeah, you could get what you want. I just don't know who's out there.
How about
Patrick Roy is always around, that kind of thing.
Listen, how about a certain goaltender who played in Montreal?
Yeah, well, that would be my first pick. I just think
he brings the fire that this team needs. This team needs a guy behind the bench who is not stoic, a guy who has got a couple of rings in his ear that he can take out so you can hear what he has to say.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
But
anyways. I want to touch quickly before we move on here. Anybody notice what the number that PK88 signed for in Detroit? 2.5.
2.7, wasn't it? 2.7.
What did I say? What did they say last week?
Yeah,
he's going to come in at under 3 for 1 year.
Yep,
that's exactly what he did. And you know what? Steve Yzerman just hit the jackpot because Detroit's going to be on the playoff bubble, in my opinion. I think they're going to be right there. It probably a wild card. But if they're not, guess what? You just turned your signing that's going to sell tickets, going to sell jerseys, right? And then you're going to get a first rounder and
at the trade deadline.
At the deadline.
No, right? There's no negative to the signing for Detroit. There's no negative.
And that's why Toronto could have got there, for that money. But I'm glad and I'm not glad. I think if Kane's good and Detroit maybe isn't good, maybe you make that move, and when you have a little bit more of an idea of what he's going to bring to the table, and maybe you make that move at the deadline. Depending on if you're healthy up front, because he's going to help. He's going to help Detroit win hockey games. He's going to help Detroit win hockey games, and he's got some chemistry with the one kid, Mary. Yeah. So.
But before we kind of move off, kind of where we are, what do we think about breaking up the Nylander, Tavares, Bertuzzi line? And here we go. Oh, who was that with the snipe?
Gregor.
Look at that big fourth line goal. 1-1 Leafs. What do we think about breaking up that second line? Would anybody rather have seen Marner go down to the third?
No. It's 6 and 1, half dozen in the other. You can go out here in a sec, Nolan, but it's 6 and 1, half dozen in the other. If they want to be successful in the playoffs, there's going to be about 47,000 different line combinations, or as many as possible, because that's your due diligence as a coaching staff, is to move guys around and constant. And I mean, taking Nylander away from Tavares. But Nylander's had tremendous chemistry in the past with Matthews, and Marner has had the same with JT. So I think, is that on the table? Absolutely. You want to go three kind of equal lines? That's there, right? I don't mind the move. I think I welcome more of these moves. I think, you gotta start to throw things in the blender and see what comes out. No different with the deep pairings as well. I think you got to look at, sometimes some things that seem crazy aren't crazy. I can remember coaching and making some where people would say, "What are you doing? How can you you can't put those three guys together?" And then all of a sudden it's magic. So anything should be on the table, from the coaching staff, and I think anything should be on the table from the management staff at this point too. If they came out 10-1 or 15-3, or a record like Boston
or the Rangers or whoever, I agree.
Yeah, Treliving has kind of got his hands tied. He's in a really good spot right now, and if he feels that he can make a move to make the team better, I think he's going to do that, because you're in that, you're not awful, but you're not good, right? You're in that, and again, it's still early, so he, I don't, anybody that doesn't have a no trade clause would be on the table, in my opinion. And some of the guys that do have no trade clauses.
No, what do you think about the line switch?
Yeah, I like it. I like seeing JT and Marner together. Obviously, in the past, when Marner was ahead of Nylander. It's kind of good to have it split up a bit, having Matthews and Marner on different lines. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it works out now with Mitch back with JT. Yeah.
Okay, so like, listen,
kind of where we are.
I'm not loving it, if I'm being honest. It's fine, I guess, if you want to run this for a couple games and see where it goes. I'm okay with it. I think I would have liked to have seen you leave that second line alone, maybe bump Yarncroc up and move Marner down. It's just my own 2 cents on it. I would also be remiss if I didn't bring this up, in that the head coach did decide at the beginning of the week to say that he was not satisfied with what he was getting out of Marner, and said he hadn't hit his stride yet and wasn't quite living up to expectation. And then the very next day, and stop me if you've heard this before, walked it back and said, guys, don't be so negative on the guy. I wonder if you guys are starting to see a bit of a trend there, where I don't know if this is his way of trying to light a fire under Marner. But this is not the first time that he's done this with Marner, where he's come.
He got his pee-pee slapped.
So, yeah,
he got his pee.
But then why?
He got his pee-pee slapped. He said something, and it's a different manager than his best friend that was there last year.
But he walked it back last year.
The manager kind of came in and said, "Hey, you know what? The kid's leading our team in 5-on-5 scoring. It's unfair." Guaranteed that Tree said something.
You think so? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So this isn't the brother alliance in the last 4 or 5 years with Dubas and Keefe. This is a general manager that has a tremendous amount of pressure, a tremendous amount of pride, and that's what makes me think that Keefe's job is on the line if they don't figure this out.
What's really interesting then, John? Sorry, and for anybody that's not aware, John, we were kind of talking off air about this. Maybe that's why Tree Living came out and spoke. In retrospect, maybe that's why Tree comes out and gives a press avail to kind of take the steam off of that. That could make sense in theory now that you say that. You know what I mean? Because really, the heat off the Marner discussion is really gone, because Tree Living's come out and kind of said a lot of nothing, didn't really say anything, but the heat's off Marner and the heat's off Keefe. So maybe there is, maybe there is merit to that then.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's, he's got to do what he's going to do. But I'd love to be Brad per living right now, because like I said to you, anything's on the table.
Playbook's open.
Coaching change. Big moves. Up front and on the back end. I don't know who. I'd like to, if one of you guys, if I have time, I'll do it. But let's figure out which, look at the contracts. Maybe we'll do a little segment next week and look at who's got limited and no trade and blah, 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 blah. And there's a way, like I said, he owes none of these guys anything, from the top players down to the Black Aces. He got hired to come in here and win. And I'm quite positive Shanny is going to let him do whatever he thinks that he needs to do. And if that means, obviously Nylander would be the easy one, because he's unrestricted after this year. But is that the guy you want to move? Right?
Okay.
I don't know.
So here's what we got. You got a full no move clause on Matthews, Tavares, and Marner. They got full no move.
And Bertuzzi too.
Nylander, as of right now, has a modified 10-team no trade.
Yep.
Tyler Bertuzzi has a full no move.
Yep.
Max Domi, David Kampf, and Kalle Yarncroc all have modified 10-team no trade clauses. Who else? Morgan Riley has a full no move. TJ Brody and Jake McCabe both have modified 10-team no trade clauses, and that's it. Everyone else is open. So the only ones you cannot move without their consent are Morgan Riley, Tyler Bertuzzi, and the big three. That's it. Other than that, anything's on the table, theoretically.
Right. Yep.
right? And then the other thing too is, I think this gets lost a lot of the time. Just because, there's a no move clause doesn't mean you couldn't entice a third team who's not on a no move and then flip that guy again.
What do you mean the limited no moves?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. The guys with the limited, I mean, even like if you think about Nylander, if it makes sense, at this point, it does not make sense to move him. I'll go on record as saying that. But if the other guys get going, some of the young guys step up and you can get him to a team that he's going to sign with and really bring back some tremendous, I don't know. Do you move him in season? If the package is there, the problem is anybody that's going to overpay for him or pay you what you need is a playoff team. And do you really want to face those guys, right? Maybe somebody in the West, but I don't think he's going to sign in the West. I think he's going to sign. I think he likes it here, and he'll sign here.
So listen. I
think
agree
he's
with
going
you.
to be in Toronto, or I think he's going to be in Montreal.
Listen, I agree with you. I think eventually we sign Tavares, or sorry, not Tavares. I think eventually we do sign Nylander, if I'm being honest. And I also think that, if Tree Living does what I think Tree Living should do, you know what? We got to remember Tavares' money is coming off the books. And how many more? We got one more year.
Yeah, 1 year after this.
One more year after this, and then his money's coming off the books. And, listen, I think we all agree. I think anybody who's a reasonable Leaf fan agrees that John Tavares has a lot of hockey left in him, that John Tavares is still a very, very good NHL hockey player. John Tavares just isn't an $11 million hockey player. If John Tavares was making $7 million a year,
I agree.
like Nylander is, he'd be celebrated. We'd have statues, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we're being honest about it, that is what it is. I do want to touch on something just because I blasted the guy nonstop on this episode and continuously. I don't know if you guys have the game on, but Sheldon Keefe just absolutely ate Tyler Bertuzzi. Absolutely ate him on the bench. And that is the very first time in I can't even tell you how long I've ever seen any emotion from that man on the bench.
What did he do? What did Bertuzzi do?
I have no idea, but he was on the bench. And I mean, John, he was in his ear eating him, just eating him. And I thought, where has that guy been for 4 years? That's what this team needs. And listen,
I must be listening to you.
It's about bloody time. But I'm just saying, if that coach could turn it around and start to show a little bit of passion, I will be the very first guy. I will pick him up and drive him to the ACC for the parade. I'll do it.
Till he puts the wrong guy on the 8th shift in overtime. And
then I'm back off again. No, 100%. 100%.
What do we got coming up? Seattle?
We got Seattle on Thursday and Boston on
it's a big week.
It's huge week.
Yeah.
Huge week.
Big week. They look like they're competing a little harder here in the second.
Yeah, a little bit of a different team.
Yeah.
But like very, very on brand though, right? Very on brand for us. We feel like we can just flip that switch, and at any point in time, we can run 3 goals in 5 minutes and get right back in the game. Which, again, there's something to be said for having that high-end skilled talent that you can do that. Frustrating that you take periods off, or games off at a time to rely on that. Before we get going here, I just thought I touch on one thing because Johnny, I think maybe you started something. You started a bit of a trend here. Last week, we had an in-depth discussion on Ryan Reeves. And as soon as we brought Ryan Reeves up, next thing you know, the puck's on his stick. It's in the net. Reeves is celebrated. We're taking him out for steak dinners, and life's great again. Who, this week, do we want to talk about who's an unsung hero who needs to get going? Johnny, the floor is yours. I'm putting you on the spot. Who do we need to get going? You bring it up. Let's go.
25. I think I watched him tonight. I didn't see him on the weekend. I watched. He's stepped back. He's missing some assignments. A little all over the place. not the guy we saw in training camp. So but you get a couple games. That's what I'd like to see going, because I think he'll help generate some offense from the back end once he gets comfortable and gets his timing back.
All right, there it is. You've heard it. Johnny Mac makes the call. Nolan, how do you feel? Are you in agreement? What do you feel?
Yeah. No, it'd be nice to see Timmins get going here. Obviously, man, the second power play unit. It'd be nice to see him get going. It'd also be nice to see Domi finally
That's right.
get on the score sheet. He's getting involved lately. He's getting assists, a bit more playing time. The fight tonight against Bennett. How about you?
I have a theory on Marner too. I think obviously he has some sort of a head or a facial issue to be wearing the birdcage here now. I'm glad he's back. That shows, a little bit of grit to come back knowing, there's probably something wrong. I hope he doesn't miss any time. But I think there's a lot of pressure on him this year. Not only because of, what's happened in the last several playoffs. He's a Toronto kid. The All-Star games in Toronto. There's a lot of hype around, there's a lot of pressure on these kids. And I think the two that I think kind of shoulder the most are the two Toronto kids, right? The two top Toronto kids. When you got, JT and Marner, and JT's a little older and more refined, or whatever you want to call it. He's
elder statesman.
I think Marner the last couple of years has weighed on him. Am I worried about him? Absolutely not. He's going to find his game and he'll be going, and he'll go on a 20-game point streak and do some ridiculous things. That kid's still there. I just think he's I liked his honesty. He said, I just need to find it, and it's a confidence thing with him, but I think he's going to get going.
So now, listen, I don't inherently disagree with what you're saying. I think the comments are fair and they're valid. As a fan, here's where I get frustrated with that statement. When you hold out and you demand the cake, because you say you deserve it, then you also deserve the scrutiny that comes along with that cake. And so I have a tough time sitting here going, poor Mitch, because
you don't think he earns his cake?
To date this year?
Whole contract.
No, we haven't won with Mitch. So no, I don't think he's earned it.
One team wins a year. There'd be 31 teams that would take him at that and absolutely pay him what that money is. He earns his cake. One team wins, John. One team every year wins.
I'm not
31 teams that the players didn't earn their money because
no. Don't see, because now you're taking words that I didn't say.
You just said they didn't win, so he didn't earn his money.
What have we won with him? We've won one playoff round. One playoff round, John. One playoff round.
Playoff round or no playoff rounds, it doesn't matter. It's cops, right? So if you lose in the final 6 years in a row, he earned his cake?
Yeah.
No, he didn't win.
No. False. Do you think
team wins?
Hold on.
One team wins. That's it.
Hold on.
I'm not one of these guys that, they haven't been out of the second round. Good, because guess what? If they're not going to win the cup, I don't care whether you play 2 rounds, 3 rounds, or 4 rounds. Doesn't matter. Or no rounds. If you're not going to win, you're not going to win.
Are you going to tell me that you don't think Jim Kelly earned his money as a Buffalo Bills quarterback? Went to 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah.
Didn't earn it. Didn't win. Okay, so what difference?
This is your logic. What are you talking about?
No.
This is what
I'm saying you don't get to say you earned your money when you take up the equivalent of 3 players on a salary cap and don't perform when it matters. No, you don't. I'm not getting there. Average NHL salary. You
just made an argument against your own argument.
No, I didn't. John.
Did Jim Kelly earn his money?
Absolutely, because he went
He didn't
deep.
win.
But he went deep.
You just said that they didn't win.
But he went.
So Marner
deep.
didn't.
He won playoff. He won playoff round after playoff round after plaoff round. I can take
the big one though.
Doesn't matter. I can take you losing in the final. I would take the Leafs losing in the final every year. Every year, I would take the Leafs losing in the final rather than the half-ass garbage effort that we've gotten.
Not me.
Flaming out.
Not
down.
me. I'd rather not make the playoffs if you're not going to win.
No, I'm not there. I'm not there.
No, I'd rather end it early. Go home. If we're not going to win, that's it. But no, Jim Kelly, I mean, he could have gone down with the greats if he had just won one.
Well, I mean, he should have won one. The kicker missed a kick wide right. I mean,
idiot kickers, you know what they are. Right? Anyway, boys, anything else, Nolan? I'm good for the night.
Let's do a quick. So it's end of the second period. It's 1-1. Let's do. How many points do you see the Leafs taking of these next 3 games? Florida, Seattle, Boston. So out of 6 points, possible.
I'm gonna say they're trending better here. I think they're gonna win this one. Let's say 4 out of 6, and I think Keefe is still employed. If it's 2 or less out of 6, I think we might be having Johnny will be dancing next Tuesday night.
Oh, we'll come on with religious hymns if he's gone. My feeling tonight is we get a point tonight. I think it goes to overtime. Truthfully, tonight, I like the bite back that we saw here in the second. I do think on Thursday, I do think we beat Seattle. But then I'll be very, very clear. I've seen this story a billion times. A big gut check game, especially a big gut check game against the Bruins. The last time we had a big gut check game against the Bruins was right before the All-Star break last year. And I watched us go into Boston, an absolute no-show. I look at this team and I see absolutely no change in this team from what we've seen the last 4 years. So I'm going to say we beat Seattle. We get a point tonight. We end up with 3 points and we embarrass ourselves against Boston. That's my take.
Okay. I'm going to go with 4 points.
Who are we? So are we winning tonight? What are we doing?
I'm not too sure where the points are coming from. For me,
oh, come on. No, I'm going to hold you to it. No, come on. You got to have a take here.
Okay. Overtime loss tonight. Overtime loss to Seattle. And then a winning in Boston.
I think you're winning in Boston, too.
Go bold. Boston's struggling a bit right now. 3 straight losses.
All right, boys. Well, listen, as always, it was a slice. Shout out to our sponsors, Bjorn Hockey and Don Cherry Sports Grill. Nolan, good to see you. Johnny Mac, good to see you. And we will catch you guys next week for another episode.
Yeah, I'll be dining at Don Cherry Sports Grill on Thursday night in Sydney, Nova Scotia, Cape Breton. I'm going to camp there on Friday, so we'll
Attaboy?
Yeah, go in and check the restaurant out there.
Attaboy.
Let you guys know next week how it was.
Fantastic. And just a shout out to everybody else before we go. Coach's Corner with Care Grace. Weekly show I do on YouTube with my daughter every Saturday night. Check us out. Everybody, go Leafs, go.
Yeah.